My toxic fiancé slept with my sister during his bachelor party and sold my photos online behind my back. So on wedding day, I burned everything down in the most badass way possible. I showed up to my own wedding in a black dress and combat boots, and holding a mic instead of a bouquet. 3 years ago, I thought my boyfriend Brandon was the reason the sun came up. Now I realized he was just a cloud blocking it. I cooked, cleaned, stitched him scrapbooks, planned birthday surprises, and in return, he forgot mine. Gave me a Target gift card with $3.28 on it. Replaced I love you with, did you do the dishes? My family worshipped him. My sister Melanie called him dreamy. My mom said, give him time. Men take longer to mature. So I gave him time. I gave him everything. Then he proposed at a football tailgate, shirtless, slurring, holding a ring pop. His friends screamed, she said yes, before I ever opened my mouth. I wanted to walk then, but instead, his mother steamrolled me. She chose the date, the venue, the food, even my dress. A puff-sleeved tragedy I wasn't allowed to alter. I never saw invites for my own friends. We want a classy guest list, she told me, without blinking. And then Brandon, my loving fiancé, casually admitted over dinner that he'd been selling pictures of my feet and underwear on OnlyFans. We could use the extra cash, he shrugged, and they're just feet. I should have burned everything down that night, but my mom whispered, just talk to him after the honeymoon. And I realized this wasn't just a wedding, it was a stage, and I was going to burn it down in front of a live audience. The night before the big day, I found out Brandon slept with Melanie at his bachelor party. She confessed through tears, calling it a mistake. I didn't care. I didn't even flinch, because now I had my finale. So I walked down that aisle in black, not white. And when I reached the altar, I didn't take his hand. I took the mic. I wrote vows, I said, but not to marry this man. I wrote vows to myself, to never be silenced again. Murmurs rippled. My fiancé filmed me in the shower once and sent it to his friends. He sold my photos online, let his mom treat me like a rental car, and slept with my sister. And still, not one of you asked if I was okay. You just wanted a wedding. The silence was nuclear. I turned to Brandon. So no, I won't marry you. You don't deserve vows. You deserve consequences. I dropped the mic, literally. He stood there red-faced, fists clenched, until he lunged for the cake and smashed it into my hair, frosting sliding down my cheeks while his idiot friend filmed it all. Good luck finding someone who'll love you, he said. I wiped the icing off my mouth and said, oh, I already did. Me. Then I turned, walked out without looking back, drove home, and blocked every last one of them. That night I posted the video. Caption, didn't get married, got free instead. I woke up the next morning to a text from my friend coworker Marcus. Hope you're doing okay after last night. Let me know if you need anything. I smiled at my phone, a strange feeling after months of dread every time it buzzed. I typed back a quick thanks and got ready for work. At the office, my coworker Jen stopped by my desk with coffee. How are you holding up after last night's drama? Better than expected, I said, accepting the cup gratefully. Thanks for staying. Of course, that's what friends do. She hesitated. So, Marcus seems nice. I rolled my eyes. It's not like that. We barely know each other. I'm just saying, he was ready to throw hands with Brandon for you. That's kind of hot. I laughed, surprised by how normal it felt. Let's focus on me being a functional human being before adding dating to the mix. The day passed uneventfully until I checked my phone during lunch. 3 missed calls from my mother. I sighed and listened to her voicemail. Honey, please call me back. Melanie is devastated. She says you called the police on her? This has gone too far. We're family. We need to talk this through. I deleted it without calling back. My family had made their choice when they sided with Brandon, when they told me to just get through the wedding, when they prioritized appearances over my well-being. That evening, I scrolled through Instagram and froze. Melanie had posted a photo of her hand with an engagement ring, a real one, not a ring pop, with the caption, when you know, you know. Engaged, blessed. The comment section was filled with congratulations, including one from my mother. So happy for you both. Love wins. I threw my phone across the couch. Love wins? After what they did to me? The audacity was breathtaking. My fingers trembled as I picked up my phone to check for damage. The screen was intact, but my heart felt like it had cracked open all over again. The cushion where my phone had landed still held the indent of impact, a small crater that somehow matched the hollow feeling in my chest. The apartment felt suddenly too quiet, the walls too close. I walked to the window and pressed my forehead against the cool glass, watching the streetlights flicker on as dusk settled over the neighborhood. Cars passed below, carrying people home to families who presumably didn't betray each other. Before I could spiral further, my phone pinged with a text from Marcus. Free for dinner Friday? No pressure. Just thought it might be nice to talk without a police visit interrupting. I hesitated, then typed back, sure, but just as friends. Absolutely. Friends eat food together. It's a thing. I smiled despite myself. Friday came, and dinner with Marcus was surprisingly easy. He told me about his job as a graphic designer, his rescue dog named Pancake, and how he'd spent the last year renovating his grandfather's old house. Enough about me, he said eventually. How are you really doing with everything? I traced the rim of my water glass. Honestly, some days I'm angry, some days I'm relieved, and some days I just feel stupid for not seeing it sooner. You're not stupid, he said firmly. Manipulative people are good at what they do. The worst part is they're trying to rewrite history, like I'm the villain in their love story. I shook my head. They're engaged now. Did you know that? After everything, they're playing the happy couple. Marcus's expression darkened. That's messed up. I'm sorry. Don't be. It just confirms I made the right choice. When he walked me to my car, he didn't try to hug me or make a move. He just said, text me when you get home safe, okay? It was such a simple courtesy, but it nearly brought me to tears. The restaurant's soft lighting had hidden my watery eyes, but in the harsh fluorescence of the parking lot, I blinked rapidly to keep tears at bay. My car keys jangled in my shaking hands as I fumbled with the lock. The metal felt cold against my skin, grounding me in the moment. I slid into the driver's seat and sat there for a moment, breathing in the familiar scent of my car's pine air freshener and the faint remnants of the vanilla perfume I'd worn for years. Brandon had always complained about that perfume, saying it was too sweet, too common. I'd kept wearing it anyway, one of my small, silent rebellions. The next day, I woke to a flood of notifications. Melanie had tagged me in a post, a throwback photo of us as bridesmaids at our cousin's wedding. The caption read, "Missing my sister. Family disagreements shouldn't last forever. My username, I love you no matter what. Sisters, forgiveness." The comments were even worse. "So sad when families fall apart. Hope you two can work it out. Blood is thicker than water." And Brandon had commented, "Family means everything. Hope she comes around." I felt sick. This wasn't about reconciliation. This was about controlling the narrative, making me look like the unreasonable one who couldn't forgive a simple mistake. I blocked them both immediately, but the damage was done. My phone started buzzing with texts from relatives and mutual friends asking why I was being so harsh on my sister. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I spent the weekend deep cleaning my apartment, purging the last of Brandon's things that had lingered in drawers and cabinets. I found a sweatshirt of his stuffed behind the couch and threw it in the donation pile without a second thought. The sweatshirt still smelled faintly of his cologne, that expensive brand he insisted on buying even when we could barely make rent. I held it at arm's length, remembering how he'd wear it after gym sessions, how he'd drape it over my shoulders on cool evenings, only to complain later that I'd stretched it out. The fabric was soft between my fingers, worn thin at the elbows. For a fleeting moment, nostalgia threatened to overtake me, not for Brandon himself, but for the person I thought he was, the relationship I believed we had. I dropped the sweatshirt into the donation bag with a decisive thud and tied the bag closed, sealing away that chapter of my life. On Monday, I received an email from an account I didn't recognize. "Take down the video or we start sharing yours." You know which one. My blood ran cold. The shower video. Brandon still had it, and now he was threatening to release it if I didn't comply. I forwarded the email to my lawyer immediately, adding it to the growing file of harassment evidence. I couldn't sleep that night. Every noise made me jump. What if they leaked the video anyway? What if Brandon decided to escalate beyond threats? I finally dozed off around 4 a.m., only to be jolted awake by my alarm an hour later. I dragged myself to work, exhausted and jumpy. My boss, Kenneth, noticed immediately. "You look like you haven't slept in days," he said, frowning. "Everything okay?" I hesitated. I'd been vague about my personal drama at work, but Kenneth had been supportive when I'd requested time off after the wedding disaster. "Not really," I admitted. "My ex is threatening to release a private video of me." Kenneth's expression hardened. "That's illegal. Have you spoken to the police?" "I've documented everything for the restraining order case, but..." I trailed off, not wanting to admit how scared I was. "Take the day," he said firmly. "Go talk to your lawyer, and let me know if you need more time or resources. The company has your back." I nearly cried at his matter-of-fact support. I thanked him and headed straight to my lawyer's office, where I showed her the threatening email. "This is textbook revenge porn threats," she said, adding it to my file. "We'll amend the restraining order to include this, and I strongly recommend filing a police report specifically about this threat." I nodded, feeling slightly more in control. "What if he actually releases it? Then he goes to jail," she said simply. "Many states have specific laws against this now, but let's hope the threat of legal consequences stops him." I filed the police report that afternoon. The officer was surprisingly understanding, taking detailed notes and assuring me they would investigate. As I left the station, I felt a weight lift slightly. I was fighting back. I wasn't just taking their abuse anymore. The police station steps were worn smooth from years of foot traffic, and I paused at the bottom to take a deep breath of fresh air. The afternoon sun felt warm on my face after the sterile coolness of the station's interior. A slight breeze rustled the leaves of the maple trees lining the street, their shadows dancing on the sidewalk. For the first time in days, my shoulders relaxed slightly. The knot of tension between my shoulder blades loosened just enough to remind me it was there. I watched a mother walk by with a stroller, completely absorbed in her own world, and envied her ordinary day. My phone felt heavy in my pocket, a constant reminder of the threat hanging over me, but I resisted the urge to check it again. Instead, I walked to my car with deliberate steps, focusing on the sound of my shoes against the pavement, the distant hum of traffic, anything but the fear still lurking at the edges of my mind. That evening, Marcus texted to check in. I hadn't told him about the latest threat, but something in my brief responses must have tipped him off. "Bad day?" he asked. "The worst," I admitted. "Brandon's escalating. Want company? I can bring Pancake. He's an excellent therapy dog." The thought of sitting alone in my apartment with my fears was suddenly unbearable. Actually, yes, that would be nice. An hour later, Marcus arrived with his dog, a goofy-looking mutt with one floppy ear who immediately rolled over for belly rubs. I found myself laughing as Pancake wiggled across my living room floor. "See? Magic," Marcus said, setting down a bag. "I also brought ice cream and terrible movies. Scientifically proven remedies for bad days." We didn't talk about Brandon or Melanie. Instead, we watched a hilariously bad sci-fi movie while Pancake snored between us on the couch. It was the most normal I'd felt in months. "Thanks for this," I said as they were leaving. "I needed it." "Anytime," Marcus said, "and I mean that, day or night." The click of my door lock echoed in the sudden quiet after they left. The apartment felt different somehow. Still mine, but less like a fortress and more like a home again. The cushions on the couch still held the indentation where Marcus had sat, and a few of Pancake's golden hairs glinted on the dark fabric. I didn't brush them away immediately. Instead, I wrapped myself in the throw blanket that now smelled faintly of Marcus's cologne. Nothing like Brandon's. This was earthier, more subtle, and sat in the lingering warmth of good company. The movie's end credits were still rolling, casting a blue glow across my living room. I could still taste the chocolate ice cream, still feel the vibration of Pancake's contented snores against my leg. For the first time in weeks, the silence of my apartment didn't feel threatening. The next day, I received a notification that Melanie had tagged me in another post. Despite my better judgment, I checked it. It was a sonogram image with the caption, "The best surprise. Baby coming in 7 months." My username, "You're going to be an aunt. Pregnant, on blessed." I stared at my phone in disbelief. She was pregnant with Brandon's baby, and she was using it to try to manipulate me back into their lives? The comments were already pouring in. "This changes everything. Family needs to come together now. Nothing more important than being there for a new baby. Time to put aside differences for the little one." My mother had commented, "My first grandbaby. My username. We need to heal as a family now. This is bigger than any disagreement." I threw my phone down, hands shaking with rage. They were using an unborn child as a manipulation tactic. A child that was conceived while Brandon was still engaged to me. It was a new low, even for them. My stomach churned with a nauseating mix of anger and disbelief. The sonogram image burned in my mind, a grainy black and white blob that was supposed to erase all the hurt, all the betrayal. I paced my kitchen, the tile cold under my bare feet, trying to process this new manipulation. The refrigerator hummed in the background. A clock ticked somewhere, ordinary sounds in an increasingly extraordinary situation. I opened a cabinet, closed it, opened another, not even sure what I was looking for. My reflection caught in the microwave door showed flushed cheeks and wild eyes. I splashed cold water on my face at the sink, the shock of it bringing me back to myself. Water dripped from my chin onto my shirt as I gripped the counter edge, focusing on my breathing the way my therapist had taught me. In, out, in, out. The granite was cool and solid beneath my palms, anchoring me to reality. I took a deep breath and picked up my phone again. Instead of responding to the post, I took screenshots, then blocked my mother too. I was done with all of them. That afternoon, I received a text from an unknown number. "You really going to ignore your own niece-nephew? That's cold. Family should come first." It was Brandon. I blocked the number immediately and added the screenshot to my evidence file. 10 minutes later, another text from a different number. "You can't keep ignoring us. We're family now whether you like it or not." I blocked that one too. Then another, and another. They were creating new numbers to harass me. I finally turned my phone off completely, overwhelmed by the barrage. When I turned it back on the next morning, there were dozens of messages from unknown numbers, all with the same theme. I was selfish for not forgiving them. I needed to think of the baby. Family comes first. I changed my phone number that day. I gave the new number only to my boss, a few close friends, my lawyer, and Marcus. For the first time in weeks, my phone was silent. The peace lasted exactly 3 days. Then a coworker approached my desk, looking uncomfortable. There's someone here to see you," she said. "In the lobby. She says she's your sister." My stomach dropped. "Tell her I'm in a meeting." I did, but she's insisting. She says it's a family emergency. I sighed and headed to the lobby, anger building with each step. The walk to the lobby felt like a march to an execution. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed faintly, casting harsh shadows that seemed to follow me down the corridor. My heels clicked against the polished floor, each step echoing in the quiet hallway. Coworkers glanced up as I passed, their curious eyes following my progress. I could feel sweat forming at the small of my back, my blouse sticking slightly to my skin despite the office's aggressive air conditioning. I smoothed my hair, straightened my shoulders, and tried to compose my face into something neutral. The glass doors to the lobby loomed ahead, and through them, I could see Melanie's silhouette, her hand resting protectively on her still flat stomach. My heart hammered against my ribs as I pushed the door open, the cool metal of the handle a final moment of delay before the confrontation. Melanie stood there in a flowy top that emphasized her still flat stomach, eyes wide with fake concern. "What are you doing here?" I demanded, keeping my voice low. "You changed your number," she said accusingly. "I had no way to reach you. That was the point. You need to leave. Not until you talk to me." She placed a hand on her stomach. "This changes things. You're going to be an aunt." "No, I'm not," I said flatly. "You and Brandon made your choices. I made mine. We're done." Her eyes filled with tears. "How can you be so cold? This is your niece or nephew. A baby you're using as a manipulation tool. It's disgusting, Melanie." "That's not true. We want you in our lives. In the baby's life. After what you did? After Brandon threatened to release private videos of me? After you both harassed me for weeks?" I shook my head. "You don't want me in your lives. You want me to shut up and pretend everything's fine so you don't look bad." Her expression hardened. "Brandon was right. You're just bitter and jealous. I need you to leave now, or I'm calling security." "Fine." She thrust an envelope at me. "Mom and Dad wanted you to have this. It's an invitation to our engagement party. They're hoping you'll come and we can start healing as a family." I didn't take the envelope. "Goodbye, Melanie." She dropped it at my feet and left. I picked it up only to throw it in the trash on my way back to my desk. The envelope was cream-colored and heavy, expensive stationery that probably cost more than the Target gift card Brandon had given me for my birthday. Gold embossing caught the light as it arced through the air into the trash can, landing with a satisfying thud among discarded coffee cups and crumpled papers. The receptionist pretended not to notice, but I could feel her eyes on my back as I walked away. My cheeks burned with a mixture of anger and embarrassment. Coworkers in the hallway quickly averted their gazes as I passed, their sudden interest in ceiling tiles and floor patterns almost comical. Back at my desk, I noticed my hands were still shaking. I gripped my mouse tightly, trying to focus on the spreadsheet on my screen, but the numbers blurred together. The office sounds faded into white noise, phones ringing, keyboards clicking, the distant hum of conversation, as I struggled to regain my composure. That night, I got a call from my lawyer. "Good news. news, she said. The judge has approved the amended restraining order, including the revenge porn threats. Brandon has been served. I felt a wave of relief. Thank you. There's more, she continued. The police investigation found evidence that Brandon has been selling those photos for over a year, not just recently. They're considering criminal charges. My hands shook as I processed this. What does that mean? It means he could face serious consequences, but it also means he might escalate before things get worse for him. Be extra vigilant, okay? After we hung up, I double-checked all my locks and windows. The thought of Brandon facing actual consequences was satisfying, but terrifying. Men like him didn't accept defeat gracefully. The next day, I received an email from a local news reporter. I'm doing a story on revenge porn and restraining orders. Would you be willing to discuss your case? Sources tell me your ex-fiancé is facing potential charges. I deleted it immediately. The last thing I needed was my story splashed across local news, but the email rattled me. How did they know about the case? Had Brandon or Melanie leaked it to control the narrative? I called my lawyer again, who assured me court records were public, but promised to look into whether anything had been inappropriately shared. She also advised me not to speak to any reporters. The thought of my private pain becoming public fodder made my skin crawl. I imagined local news anchors discussing my case with practiced sympathy, neighbors whispering as I collected my mail, strangers recognizing me at the grocery store. I checked my blinds again, making sure no gaps allowed anyone to see inside. The apartment that had finally started to feel like a sanctuary now felt exposed, vulnerable. I jumped at a knock on my door, only to find it was just the delivery person leaving a package. The cardboard box sat untouched in my entryway for hours while I calmed my racing heart. That night, I slept with my bedroom door locked, a chair propped under the handle, an extra precaution that felt necessary even though logic told me it was excessive. The sheets tangled around my legs as I tossed and turned, my dreams filled with cameras and pointing fingers and Brandon's laughing face. That weekend, Marcus invited me to a small gallery opening where his friend was showing photography. It felt good to do something normal, to be around people who knew nothing about my drama. You seem more relaxed, Marcus noted as we examined a landscape photo. I am, I realized. The restraining order helps, and changing my number. Good. You deserve some peace. As we moved to the next photograph, I froze. Across the room stood Brandon's mother, talking to an older couple. She hadn't seen me yet. We should go, I whispered to Marcus, nodding discreetly in her direction. He understood immediately. Side exit. Come on. We slipped out quietly, but as we reached Marcus's car, I heard someone call my name. Brandon's mother was hurrying toward us, her face tight with anger. Running away again? She called. That seems to be your specialty. Marcus stepped slightly in front of me. Ma'am, we're leaving. Please don't approach. I just want to talk to the woman who's trying to ruin my son's life, she snapped. Do you know she's trying to press charges over some harmless photos? After she humiliated him at their wedding? Harmless? I echoed, incredulous. He sold intimate photos of me without my consent. He filmed me without permission and shared it with friends. Boys will be boys, she dismissed. If you hadn't made such a scene, none of this would be happening. Now my son and his fiancée are expecting a baby, and instead of supporting them, you're trying to send him to jail? Marcus opened the car door for me. We're leaving now. You'll regret this, she called as we got in. Family should stick together, not tear each other down. I was shaking as Marcus drove away. I'm so sorry, I said. I had no idea she would be there. Don't apologize. You did nothing wrong. He glanced at me. For what it's worth, everything she said just confirmed you made the right choice walking away from that family. The car's interior felt like a bubble of safety as we pulled away from the curb. Streetlights streaked past the windows, illuminating Marcus's profile in rhythmic flashes of gold. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel, jaw clenched in controlled anger. The heater hummed softly, pushing warm air that smelled faintly of his cologne and the leather seats. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to stop the trembling that had overtaken my body. My heart was still racing, adrenaline coursing through me from the confrontation. The city streets blurred outside my window as tears threatened to spill over. I blinked them back, focusing instead on the solid presence of Marcus beside me, the steady rhythm of his breathing, the gentle way he'd placed himself between me and danger without hesitation. The radio played softly in the background, some indie song I didn't recognize but found oddly comforting. As we stopped at a red light, Marcus reached over and squeezed my hand briefly before returning his to the wheel. The simple gesture of support meant more than any words could have. The next morning, I received an email with the subject line, "Last Chance." It contained a single image, a screenshot of the shower video Brandon had taken, with my face clearly visible. Below it was a message: take down your video and drop everything by tomorrow, or this goes public. Your choice. I called my lawyer immediately, forwarding her the email with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. This is direct evidence of criminal behavior, she said grimly. I'm contacting the police right now. Do not respond to the email. An hour later, 2 officers were at my apartment taking a statement. They seemed to take the threat seriously, asking detailed questions about Brandon's past behavior and access to my personal information. We'll try to trace the email, one officer said. In the meantime, stay with someone if you can. These situations can escalate quickly. After they left, I called Marcus. I hate to ask this, but could I stay at your place tonight? Or could you stay here? The police think I shouldn't be alone. I'll be there in 30 minutes with Pancake, he said without hesitation. That night, as Marcus slept on my couch with Pancake curled at his feet, I stared at my ceiling, wondering how my life had become this. 3 months ago, I was planning a wedding. Now I was hiding in my own apartment, terrified my ex would release intimate videos of me. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check your email. Time's running out. I blocked the number and turned off my phone. Whatever happened tomorrow, I wasn't giving in to their threats. The ceiling above my bed had a hairline crack running from the light fixture to the corner, barely visible in the dim glow from the street lamp outside. I'd never noticed it before tonight. My eyes traced its jagged path again and again as sleep eluded me. The sheets felt too hot, then too cold. Every creak of the building settling made me tense. From the living room came the soft sounds of Marcus's steady breathing and Pancake's occasional doggy snores. The digital clock on my nightstand glowed 3:17 a.m., its red numbers casting a faint crimson hue on my water glass. My mouth was dry, but I couldn't bring myself to get up for a refill. Moving might break the fragile sense of safety I'd constructed. Instead, I curled onto my side, pulling the comforter up to my chin despite the warmth of the room. The pillow still smelled faintly of my shampoo, a lavender scent that usually helped me sleep. Tonight, not even that familiar comfort could quiet my racing thoughts. I tried the breathing exercises my therapist had taught me, in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8, but my lungs seemed to resist the pattern, catching on invisible snags of anxiety. The next day, my lawyer called with good news. The police traced the email, she said. It came from Brandon's IP address. They're getting a warrant now. Relief washed over me. So it's over? Not quite yet, but we're close. The police will contact you once they've executed the warrant. Later that day, I received a call from the police. They had executed the warrant and found the videos on Brandon's computer, along with evidence he'd been selling photos of other women too. He was in custody. What happens now? I asked. He'll be charged with revenge, extortion, and violating the restraining order, the officer explained. Given the evidence, it's a strong case. After I hung up, I sat in stunned silence. It was really over. Brandon couldn't hurt me anymore. That evening, as Marcus and I celebrated with takeout, my doorbell rang. I checked the peephole to see my parents standing there, looking solemn. Don't answer it, Marcus advised. But some part of me needed closure. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. We heard about Brandon, my mother said, her voice tight. How could you do this to your sister? She's pregnant. I didn't do anything to Melanie, I said calmly. Brandon broke the law, multiple times. He made a mistake, my father insisted. But sending him to jail? That's going too far. He threatened to release intimate videos of me, I said. He's been selling my photos without consent for over a year. Those aren't mistakes. They're crimes. My mother's expression hardened. You need to drop the charges. Think about the baby. Think about your sister. I am thinking about them, I said. I'm thinking that child deserves better than a father who exploits women. I'm thinking Melanie deserves better than a man who blackmails his ex. You've changed, my mother said accusingly. You used to care about family. I still do. I just finally realized I'm part of that family too. My well-being matters just as much as anyone else's. If you go through with this, you're no longer welcome in our home, my father said. I looked at them. These people who had raised me but couldn't see past their own expectations to protect me, and felt a strange calm. That's your choice, I said. Goodbye. I closed the door gently, not slamming it. I didn't need dramatic gestures anymore. I just needed peace. Marcus looked at me with concern. You okay? Actually, yes, I realized. For the first time in a long time, I think I really am. The door closed with a soft click that somehow felt more final than any slam could have. The wood grain under my palm was smooth and cool, grounding me in the moment. Behind me, Marcus stood in the middle of my living room, takeout containers still open on the coffee table, the smell of pad thai and green curry filling the apartment. Outside, I heard my parents' car start and pull away. No lingering arguments, no tearful pleas, just the sound of tires on asphalt, growing fainter until they disappeared completely. My shoulders, which had been tensed for confrontation, slowly relaxed. The weight I'd been carrying, the obligation to please, to forgive, to put everyone else first, seemed to dissolve, leaving me lighter than I'd felt in years. I turned back to Marcus, surprised to find myself smiling. The living room looked different somehow, warmer, safer, more mine than it had ever been. The soft lamplight cast a golden glow over everything, highlighting the books I'd chosen, the art I loved, the spaces where I'd removed Brandon's things and never replaced them. These empty spaces no longer felt like losses. They were possibilities. The next day, another letter arrived from Melanie. Like the first one, I dropped it unopened into the trash. Whatever she had to say, I didn't need to hear it. I was writing my own story now. That afternoon, I posted an update to my original video. Some of you have asked for updates. The short version, my ex was arrested for revenge, and extortion. The long version, I learned who really has my back, and it wasn't who I expected. Sometimes the family you choose is more important than the family you're born into. Still free, still healing, still moving forward. Within minutes, supportive comments flooded in, but the one that meant the most came from Marcus. Proud of you. The hard part is over. The good part is just beginning. I smiled at my phone, then set it aside to enjoy the quiet of my apartment. The future stretched before me, uncertain but full of possibility. And for the first time in years, I was excited to see what came next. The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal proceedings and quiet evenings with Marcus and Pancake. Brandon remained in custody, denied bail due to the severity of the charges and his history of harassment. My lawyer kept me updated on every development, each call reinforcing that I'd made the right decision to fight back. The prosecutor is pushing for the maximum sentence, she told me during our latest call. They found evidence he'd been doing this to other women too. You're not alone in this. That revelation hit me hard. I wasn't Brandon's only victim, just the only one who'd publicly stood up to him. I wondered how many others had suffered in silence, afraid or ashamed to come forward. One evening while scrolling through social media, I noticed Melanie had made her accounts private, and Brandon's mother had deleted hers entirely. The online harassment had stopped completely. No more tags, no more manipulative posts, no more guilt-tripping comments. The silence was blissful. They're in damage control mode, Marcus suggested when I mentioned it. We were walking Pancake through the park, the autumn leaves crunching beneath our feet. Now that there are actual consequences they're trying to hide, I nodded, watching Pancake chase a squirrel up a tree. It's weird. For years I was the one hiding my feelings, hiding my unhappiness. Now they're the ones who can't face reality. Marcus squeezed my hand. Over the past weeks, our friendship had evolved into something more, though we were taking things painfully slow. Every time he asked permission before even holding my hand, I was reminded how different he was from Brandon. Have you thought about what you'll do after the trial? He asked. I hadn't. Not really. I'd been so focused on surviving each day that planning for the future seemed impossible. Maybe travel? I always wanted to see Europe, but Brandon said it was a waste of money. You should do it, Marcus said, though I'd miss our movie nights. I bumped his shoulder with mine. Maybe I'll send you postcards. The moment was interrupted by my phone ringing, an unknown number. My heart raced until I answered and heard a woman's unfamiliar voice. Is this the woman from the wedding video? The one who called out her fiancé? I almost hung up, but something in her tone stopped me. Yes, that's me. My name is Delilah. First period. I think I'm one of the other women Brandon was selling photos of. The police contacted me. Her voice cracked. I just wanted to thank you for coming forward. I never would have had the courage. My throat tightened. You don't need to thank me. I do, she insisted. When I saw your video, I thought you were so brave. I wish I'd done the same when my ex was controlling me. We talked for nearly 20 minutes. Delilah had dated Brandon briefly in college before me. He'd taken intimate photos that she thought were private. She'd never known he'd kept them, let alone sold them. There are 5 of us so far, she told me. We're thinking of starting a support group. Would you want to join? For the first time, I realized my very public breakdown hadn't just freed me. It might have helped others too. I'd like that, I said. The first meeting of what we jokingly called the Brandon Survivors Club happened the following week at a quiet coffee shop downtown. Besides Delilah and me, there were 3 other women. Grace, who'd dated Brandon in high school, Sarah, who'd met him at a bar last year, and Helen, who'd worked with him briefly and rejected his advances. We shared our stories over lattes, each one eerily similar. The love bombing at the beginning, the slow erosion of boundaries, the way he'd make us feel crazy for questioning him. Did he give you a Target gift card for your birthday too? Grace asked, and we all burst into surprised laughter when I nodded. With like $3 on it? Sarah added. 3.28 exactly, I confirmed, and we laughed harder, the absurdity of it all finally hitting me. By the end of the meeting, we'd created a group text and made plans to meet again. As we were leaving, Helen hugged me tightly. Thank you for being our voice, she whispered, for saying what we couldn't. I hugged her back, realizing that my very public humiliation had transformed into something powerful, something healing. The preliminary hearing for Brandon's case was scheduled for the following month. My lawyer prepared me thoroughly, explaining that I would need to testify about the harassment, the threats, and the unauthorized photos. It won't be easy, she warned. His defense will try to paint you as vindictive, as overreacting. They'll bring up the wedding video. Are you prepared for that? I thought about it, about facing Brandon across a courtroom, about having my private pain dissected by strangers. I think so, I said. I've already survived the worst he could do. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I paced my apartment, rehearsing my testimony, imagining Brandon's smug face, Melanie's tears, his mother's glares. Around 2 a.m., my doorbell rang. I checked the security camera I'd installed and saw Marcus standing there with Pancake. I opened the door, confused. What are you doing here? He held up a paper bag. Couldn't sleep. Figured you couldn't either. Brought stress brownies. I let them in, grateful for the company. We sat on my couch eating brownies while Pancake snored between us, neither of us mentioning the hearing until Marcus finally said, You know you don't have to do this alone, right? I nodded, throat tight. I know. I'll be there tomorrow. So will Delilah and the others. Front row. I leaned my head on his shoulder, letting his steady presence calm my racing thoughts. Thank you. The courtroom was more crowded than I'd expected. My lawyer had warned me that local media might pick up the story, but I wasn't prepared for the rouse of unfamiliar faces. I spotted Delilah and the others in the front row as promised, with Marcus beside them. My parents and Melanie sat on the other side, not looking in my direction. Brandon was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit, his usual swagger diminished by handcuffs and the seriousness of his situation. He didn't look at me. The proceedings were both better and worse than I'd imagined. Better because the evidence against Brandon was overwhelming. The emails, the photos found on his devices, the testimony from multiple victims. Worse because his lawyer tried exactly the tactics mine had warned about, painting me as an unstable woman who'd humiliated her fiancé publicly and was now seeking revenge. When it was my turn to testify, I focused on Marcus's encouraging nod from the gallery. I spoke clearly about the harassment, the threats, the violation I'd felt discovering Brandon had been selling intimate images without my consent. And why did you post the video of your confrontation at the wedding? Brandon's lawyer asked, his tone suggesting I'd done something shameful. I met his gaze steadily, because for years I'd been silenced, made to feel that my feelings didn't matter, that I should just go along with whatever Brandon wanted. The video was me finally speaking my truth. The judge ruled there was sufficient evidence to proceed to trial. Brandon was returned to custody, and a trial date was set for 3 months later. As the courtroom emptied, Melanie approached me, her baby bump now visible under her loose dress. Can we talk? She asked, her voice small. I glanced at Marcus, who nodded and stepped away to give us privacy. What is it, Melanie? She twisted her engagement ring nervously. I didn't know about the photos, or the videos, I swear. But you knew he was still engaged to me when you slept with him, I said, keeping my voice level. You knew he was cheating. She looked down. I thought he loved me, that I was special. The realization hit me then. Melanie was just another victim of Brandon's manipulation, a different kind perhaps, but still caught in his web of lies and charm. He made me feel special too once, I said softly. That's what he does. Tears filled her eyes. What am I supposed to do now? I'm having his baby. I can't just walk away like you did. For a moment, I felt a flicker of the sisterly protectiveness I'd once had for her. You can still choose yourself, Melanie, and your baby. You don't have to stay with him. She She shook her head, hands protectively covering her stomach. Mom and Dad would never forgive me. They've already planned everything. The wedding, the nursery. They talk about Brandon like he's some misunderstood hero. And what do you think? Now that you've seen the evidence? She hesitated. I don't know what to believe anymore. I reached into my purse and pulled out a business card. This is my therapist. She's helped me a lot. Maybe she could help you too. Melanie took the card, looking surprised at the gesture. Thank you. I can't be what you want right now, Melanie. I can't pretend everything's okay between us. But I don't want you trapped like I was either. She nodded, slipping the card into her pocket. I should go. Mom and Dad are waiting. As she walked away, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. I couldn't save Melanie. She'd have to save herself just like I had. But maybe, just maybe, I'd planted a seed. 2 weeks before the trial, I received a letter from the prosecutor. Brandon had agreed to a plea deal, guilty on all counts in exchange for a slightly reduced sentence. I wouldn't have to testify in open court after all. How do you feel about it? Marcus asked when I told him. I considered the question carefully, relieved mostly. But also, I don't know. Part of me wanted to face him one last time. To say what? That he didn't break me. That I'm stronger now than I ever was with him. Marcus smiled. I think he already knows that. It's why he took the deal. The day Brandon was sentenced, I didn't go to the courthouse. Instead, I took the day off work and went hiking with Marcus and Pancake, climbing to a viewpoint overlooking the city. The autumn air was crisp, the leaves brilliant shades of red and gold. My phone buzzed with a text from Delilah. 15 years, no possibility of parole for 8. It's over. I showed Marcus the message, a wave of emotions washing over me, relief, vindication, and finally, freedom. Real freedom. Not just from Brandon, but from the fear he'd instilled in me. What now? Marcus asked, his arm around my shoulders. I looked out at the city below, at the vast sky above, at all the possibilities stretching before me. Now I live, on my terms. When we returned to my apartment that evening, there was a letter in my mailbox, Melanie's handwriting, again. For a moment, I considered tossing it unopened like the others, but something made me pause. I opened it carefully. Inside was a sonogram picture and a short note. It's a girl. I'm naming her after Grandma Rose. I've moved out of Mom and Dad's, started therapy. Thank you for the card. Maybe someday we can talk again. Mel. I traced the fuzzy outline of my niece in the picture, a lump forming in my throat. Not forgiveness, not yet, but perhaps, someday, a new beginning.